experience, fits my values, things like that. Some of the events and projects that I've worked on have really given me a lot of experience in my professional field. I studied graphic design at UNL, so my main focus in my time at MAPA was definitely more of the design aspects of communication, media, projects like our annual report for our calendar, our MAPA calendar we work on. I really enjoyed it. Sort of finished following that project, seeing how it's developed, seeing all the information comes together. It's really interesting. Thing that really was social media that I did. So we Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn. We post on all of them for our meetings. So I was responsible for promoting all these meetings, getting people that come out to our public meetings, and also just some fun little stuff here and there. For example, last month was in May. Spent the whole month promoting a bunch of bike packs and making fun graphics. I even commuted all the way to the house on my bike with a GoPro on my head and made an Instagram reel for it. It was a lot of fun. It was an interesting experience. I've never done that before, so it was a lot of fun. What I've learned, I already loved Omaha, like I said, but I really do have a deep appreciation for the city. I've met so many new people and I've learned about so many organizations local to Omaha and Iowa, but I just really enjoy all the people I met. I get so see all the people that do good in these communities. I also do value the fact that position. Like I said, I do graphic design again, but I have experience with email campaigns and planning meetings and speaking. I just a wide range of really interesting stuff that I think really well-rounded. I'm excited to find a job. I'll keep doing it for and I just want to say grow as a professional. I'm at work. I'm in my team. Really, really excited to be leaving. I'm ready to do more things. Yeah, that's my time. Thank
you. To give a little context to that, I'm Carl Heilman, she's an outreach manager. So Helen was our intern, so we have her about every year we turn over. So we're saying good one at the end of this month. Okay. And then we also have stepping up really briefly.
My name is Chris. I graduated from Creighton University with a degree in journalism, our news. Lived here all my entire life, enjoyed it as I could. I saw that mapping communications and outreach. I was really excited to start trying to do good in the community, trying to help wherever I could. It started Monday was my first day. I'm really excited to continue. Thank you.
Thank you. Oh.
Hello again. I'll try to keep this brief, but I just want to call out for the overall things that we did last month. So we've been working with the Greater Omaha Chamber and our Economic Development Partnership, putting together some grant applications submitted to EDA, Economic Development Administration, and these are grants that will support hopefully some studies centered around clusters and workforce readiness, kind of with an emphasis on AI and how that technology will affect the workforce and just labor dynamics in this region. We have been asked to participate in a couple of technical committees and support Omaha's master plan update, which is great that we make Omaha. So my team will be representing the Economic Development Committee, and I know some other folks on staff are on the Transportation Committee and maybe another one. But that process kicked off last month, so we'll be involved in that throughout the rest of this year. In Hancock, Potawatomi County, we develop a low to moderate income survey that they distributed to households in the community. If they reach a certain percentage of low and moderate income persons as a result of the survey, they're eligible for community development, which is kind of one of the few discretionary funds things like water, sewer infrastructure, downtown revitalization. So it's a very good program that has a wide range of uses. We're helping two public housing authorities complete environmental reviews as part of their 5-year plan. So we're working that with Blair Housing Authority, and then later on this summer, we'll Municipal Housing Agency. For several months now, we've been helping the Underwood City Council and local group of community volunteers create a survey, just a community needs survey that's part of a larger and comprehensive effort that they're hoping to undertake. So we help them develop a survey online. So we're administering the survey. I think that concludes, and then next month we'll give a presentation on the results and hopefully have some kind of facilitated conversation with the people that attend the meeting, figure out what the next step is in that process. In Elbow, Cass County, very tiny village, we have been working with them to kind of evaluate their communities. They have an adopted nuisance ordinance. We went through the community, did a windshield survey, and made notes of properties that have violations, whatever to them, just kind of findings. We're not really being a nuisance enforcer or officer on their behalf. We're just kind of giving full assistance. And as part of that, some of our staff actually attended a nuisance abatement conference in Iowa back in May to get some more information on how we can provide this type of service more consistently. So, community visits that we take part of, especially in rural communities that often comes up as a need, having some assistance around with dilapidated properties, absentee landowners, things like that. A couple weeks ago, I and a few others from Omaha, the mayor's office, Keith Station, and then the director of the Economic Development Council, a representative from the Omaha Chamber, we attended a workshop in Cleveland that kind of centered around community wealth building, specifically for the neighborhoods that have historically invested. So it was a workshop in Omaha and then 5 other mid-sized communities. I think Waco, Kalamazoo, Michigan, and but that was a week-long workshop, very intensive. But it was really kind of interesting to hear how other communities in the country are kind of addressing the building up of these communities, neighborhoods that kind of left behind due to just zoning and planning decisions. A few other things, we worked with the County Economic Development Council to put on a workshop for underutilized and dilapidated buildings. This is on Main Street. So we didn't host the workshop, we attended and provided some knowledge in our own personal experience and expertise. And then lastly, yesterday, or 2 days ago, I attended Economic Foundation annual meeting. It was an interesting event. Debbie Durham, the director of economic development for the state of Iowa, was there. She made some remarks. And then we got to hear a little bit about the mega site on US, how the county is working to reuse or kind of adapt the Linwood Resource Center, which closed last year. It's an awesome campus. Will be a big undertaking. And then just a few other quick updates. I know this time of year you hear a lot about the budget and the Unified Work Program. And in my department, community development, we're not necessarily as prescribed to outdoor work in the same way for the year ahead that transportation counterparts are. I think it's a good idea. And we got our core in our department. We focus on just being a shared resource. The majority of the work we do is probably direct community assistance to the smaller, more rural communities in the metro. Communities that don't really have the staff or the technical expertise to do some planning related things. Things are kind of just beyond the day-to-day running of. So that's kind of an essence of what we do, and we're constantly trying to refine our ground game. You know, how to reach out to the communities, let them know that we're available, and we're here to assist. So a lot of that is kind of dependent on community. You know, we send out a monthly newsletter that's just kind of focused for our primary community clients, and then as you can, we also do a member survey. So all of that kind of informs our priorities and what we want to achieve. So I just want to call these out. These are roughly the 5 areas or pillars that we wanted to put our efforts this year. So grant writing and grant administration, project management. I mean, we're always feedback. That is something that communities need. Local planning, capacity building, planning, like planning, planning, mitigation planning. And then with capacity building, that's just working with community members and volunteers to kind of build the tools and understand the resources that are out there. You know, we're always going to be a resource for our members. Sometimes our friends, if you just have local officials or a few volunteers that want to take some things on themselves, it kind of helps move in that direction. You know, we're a convener. We want to share information. So we want to support things like hosting the elected and official training that we organized ISU extension and UNL earlier this year. We're always working on strategies that hopefully address blight and disinvestment, so whether that's code enforcement, updated housing, downtown revitalization, anything that hopefully kind of moves the needle, makes communities improve their image or deal with just poor housing stuff. And then finally, pre-disaster planning and post-disaster recovery. I was thinking about that. I think in just the last year or so, every county in our region has at least 2 presidential disaster declarations. So as these events continue and maybe become more frequent, there are just larger community members on how to prepare for those. And how can we fill in gaps and work with these communities to do a better job with the post-disaster recovery. So again, very, very broad and very general, but these are kind of pillars that we're looking to focus our time and attention on over the next fiscal year. So that's really the end of the report. Happy to answer any questions.
On that trip, is there anything, did you learn?
You know, my answer to that is, you know, I'm not trying to blow smoke. I think Omaha shined really well. And of the communities that were represented, Omaha was the largest size city, you know, a city of just a little under 500,000 people in the city proper. You know, Jackson, Mississippi, for example, I don't think is 50,000. But for right here now, Omaha city is. And I think that we're already ahead of the curve on some of these things. You know, for instance, you listen to a lot of discussions and presentations around that. Obviously, the city land bank. So I told Mike I was going to work up some notes and some thoughts and takeaways from that workshop. I haven't had a chance to really do that yet. But I'll share that. I'll share that with you in the group if you're interested. But again, like, not to sound like I'm being a cheerleader, but I thought Omaha really represented well among those communities that were there. So that was good too. Thank you.
On this point, in the agenda, we take public. Agenda items, themselves, address or speaking, individual interested. MAPA Board of Directors regarding non-agenda items must have signed in on the speakers list located in the back of the anybody here wishing to address the board? Seeing none, we'll move to the consent agenda. Any item may be removed. One member, special discussion or consideration, unless there is an exception. All these items will be approved in one single vote of the board of directors. Is there a motion to approve the consent agenda? So is there discussion?
Garcia. Tyke. Rowe. Walsh.
Yes.
Lindquist.
Yes.
Item G, business resolution 5, transportation improvement program, amendment number 7. Clerk?
Good afternoon.
Yes.
Pretty straightforward amendment here today. The main thing that we're doing is we're rolling up some regional planning studies into a single line item. It'll make it easier for us to do that with NDOTs. We're just going to obligate all of that federal funding for 5 different previously. So we're basically just rolling all that up in one entry. In addition, Starkey County got a federal order through Congressman. So we've got 1.4 million in congressional spending that will probably be equipment in 26, just in case they need to use it next year. We don't have an official recommendation, but any concerns with the amendment, staff is recommending.
Any questions for Court? Second bill. Additional
Cuming. Garcia. Tyke.
Yes.
Klug.
Yes.
Rowe.
Yes.
Walsh.
Yes.
Lindquist. Yes.
Thank you.
Under new business, fiscal year 26 local council, Christine.
Good afternoon. So each year, the board of directors will ratify the appointment of the fiscal year legal counsel. So we actually, in preparation, did some research and actually started this around November, December timeframe. We worked with Matt Cuming, the Omaha City Attorney, to try to do a little bit of background information on like how this came to be and what exactly the city of Omaha this is so we worked with on this. We met a couple of times and related to the term the Omaha City Charter actually does not allow for the city to with these such as really anything outside of municipal law. And so as you all recall, one of the items we had to procure legal services for was our work authorization, an employee that we an H-1B lottery petition for, and so we did procure services with Coley Jensen for that. So along this path, we recently put out our services so that MAPA can have formal representation for things such as real estate. We've had some contracts on the community development side where we needed some real estate expertise work authorization, personnel issues. We're going through the process of rewriting administrative procedures, so having, a legal eye through that and make sure that we're following all of the within state statute. Yeah. So what we're bringing before you today is we would like to ratify the chairperson appointment for Omaha, serve as city council, but in a very capacity. And so what I'm bring before you is a portion of item 2 is legal services memorandum of understanding, MAPA and the city. To assist with comment here as well, and answer any questions you may have and working with us on this. So as you can see, I provide some obligation responsibilities. You can see the city will be able to provide following services, which is attending MAPA's regularly scheduled board meetings, assist with the Open Meetings Act compliance by present, and then perform contract review for the legal form, anything that potentially put MAPA at risk. And then just below that, you'll see what the city is unable to assist with, and those items are essentially reflected in the RFP to obtain legal counsel to assist. So what we're requesting approval for today is to ratify the appointment of Omaha City Attorney as legal counsel for 26 in the capacity that's noted in the memorandum of understanding, and then also requesting for the MOU. And then we have noted that we'll renew this agreement annually each year whenever we have an appointment. And then on the RFP side, that's open until July 2nd, so you can anticipate the contract coming forward probably in the next couple of months.
Any questions for Ms. Street? That, okay. Take both. Roll call.
Bell. Ewing. Garcia. Heidi.
Yes.
Klug.
Yes.
Rowe.
Yes.
Walsh.
Yes.
Lindquist. Yes.
Page 2 on the new business and contracts and agreements, Carlos.
Yep.
Good afternoon.
We'll talk about 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 different contracts that we have coming in. 4 of them that are noted as Douglas County GIS, Ottawa GIS, Berkeley County GIS, and Metro Regional Transit Authority. These are sub-awards from our P&L funding. They're usually matched, so the numbers here are the federal. We were creating sub-recipients of these agencies to help us do the work that we do. We supply funds to help the GIS departments in Douglas and Potawatomi County to help deliver some of the puzzles and information that we need to deliver the work that's required for the region. And so those are those GIS contracts. For Metro Transit, we assist in developing some of the work that they're looking at, which is mainly looking at transit locations throughout the region and looking for different connections between walk, bike, their transit safer for people who get there. So those are the PL agreements. We went to the Intercultural Senior Center and the Council Bluffs sub-awards are for our 5210 program. That is specialized service for senior and disabled services. So adding additional services where fixed route transit doesn't exist or is unavailable to needs of yes. The Intercultural Center was awarded $94,838 and Council Bluffs awarded $106,000. Questions?
Thank you. Other questions for Carlos? Motion approved. Second. Any additional discussion?
Bell.
Aye.
Ewing.
Aye.
Garcia.
Yes.
Pike.
Yes.
Clues.
Yes.
Rowe.
Yes.
Walsh.
Yes.
Winquist.
Yes.
Item H3, 2026 authorization resolution on that.
Right, so you have these in front of you, right? So I'm gonna read through them. I'll just kind of explain, unless you prefer me to go through them in detail, I'll explain why we do these. The first one is what we call the annual authorization resolution, so as to not require board signature on the receipt of funds primarily. Normally, we'll bring a contract to board for I can sign those as on the receiving end. We typically not bring funds to accept. So this to extend those funds. And then the second one, whether they do it, the STBG CMAC authorization resolution. We've not done this one before, right? This is new. Last year was the first year. So we have some, this is a way to navigate some of the I don't know, just the hoops we have to jump through with NDOT to not require the board resolution to accept STBG, Surface Transportation Block Grant Funds, or CMAG. Carlos, stand for air quality. So normally when we receive those grants, NDOT's auditors require a separate resolution, and they have done that up until last year. With this grant plan to create a separate resolution to do them once and for all for the year. So this seems to satisfy when we submit this resolution in lieu of a ad hoc portion of the bill.
Motion.
For hands.
Yeah, or somebody wants to split them out. Motion. H3. Roll call.
Belt.
Aye.
Ewing.
Aye.
Garcia.
Yes.
Pike.
Yes.
Clues.
Yes.
Rowe.
Yes.
Walsh.
Yes.
Winquist.
Yes.
H4, final approval of 2026 TIP program.
I'm back. So we brought the draft to you last month, kind of explain what some of the new projects that were being added to the program, and kind of going through, you know, some of the changes that we made since draft. We've updated some of the Iowa operations and maintenance numbers after a conversation with Iowa DOT. Project list, that information in, with the socioeconomic analysis in there, and then also we had project map and web map. And usually when I show you that we also added some pavement data collection, pavement data collection on the side. IOD and maybe we should ask us to make some more local collection. Matt is kind of interested in doing that, so we're going to use some of the STG funds to do that. It's a pretty small amount of Penn States. Oh, you already. Thank you. So we're updating the way that we're displaying the projects in there, making it a little bit easier for the public to get in there and see which projects are which and where everything's going on. Previously, we had a map with number of the projects with a table afterwards, and it was just kind of hard to follow for some of the projects. So this makes it so you can go in there and projects. This will also be part of the update to our metropolitan transportation plan this year, and it's just kind of us trying to unify the data set on all to interact with. And then ultimately what we have in here for kind of a 4-year regional investment picture, there are about $696 million worth of projects in the program, and it's about right around $506 million in that. both the kind of regional federal aid as well as from within the region. I think a little bit of aviation from FA. That's about it. Any questions on the final tip? Similar to the tip amendment, TTAC didn't have a quorum, so we don't have an official recommendation. Same thing there, that there weren't any concerns from TTAC on the program.
Is there a motion to approve on the 2026 tip?
Bill. Ewing.
Yes.
Klug.
Yes. Yes.
Walsh.
Yes.
Winquist.
Yes.
Use 5 is salary adjustment, Matt.
Yes, so we bring these up every year. So one is going to be based on our analysis of COLA increase, and these have all been budgeted. So when we approved the budget in May, calculations were worked into that salary line item that you approved, just so you know there is enough funding for these. But 2.7 cost of living, and what we've established sort of is we take last calendar year of the CPI, which is produced, and we take the last, as of December, they always have revisions. It came out 2.7 for Midwest non-adjusted. So that's the unedited. So that's what we've been doing that since I've been here. This year was 2.7. And then on the salary schedule, essentially all that is so that we don't end up, giving raises that take us up our salary. We adjust the salary schedule to range for employees' job series. Just out 2.7% so that we don't end up maxing everybody out. Because
Questions for Matt? How much is in the merit pool of discretionary compensation?
yeah, thank you. I forgot that subparagraph Roman 2 there. So every year we do, and again, this is just a tradition. The 1% merit pool is more of a budget target. The executive director doesn't give, necessarily across the board 1% increases. He uses that pool. So the budget is around 2 million. 1 wages next year. Exactly. The budget up. I think it's 1.8 million. So 1% of that. And then the executive director uses that to target raises, and we usually do that around January, February timeframe. And then, but the executive director, as pointed out before, the executive director has a discretion. We've given him the discretion to make adjustments based on what he believes the proper target for that position would be. So you can make a salary adjustment based on market analysis like that to ensure that we don't, that we retain talent. So he can go and make an adjustment on those. Merit alone, that's what say, hey, you did a great job, or 3% raise.
You may spend it or you may not spend it.
Right. It's not.
1% of about 1.8.
Yeah, I believe 1.8 is enough. We have some others that affect salaries, like PTO.
Can you use that for a bonus program?
Well, we try to stay away from the word bonus. I used to say that. So what we do is, as a bonus, he could do it as you mean like a one-time rather than a permanent salary. Yeah, he has done that, and he uses those funds for that purpose as well. So to avoid, inflating our budget.
Second.
Are there questions? Roll call.
Bell.
Aye.
Ewing.
Aye.
Garcia.
Yes.
Height.
Yes.
Luke.
Yes.
Rowe.
Yes.
Walsh.
Yes.
Winfest. Yes.
And then 5B is to adjust the ranges of the salary schedule to reflect that 2.75%.
So moved.
Second vote. Additional discussion? Roll call.
Bell.
Aye.
Ewing.
Aye.
Garcia.
Yes.
Height.
Yes.
Luke.
Yes.
Rowe.
Yes.
Walsh.
Yes.
Yes.
Any additional discussion? Unfinished business?
Have one item under additional business. So for you all, you should have the conflict of interest form. And so we just ask that you guys would all review, just as members of the board, we do require annually a conflict of interest form be submitted to the agency. There are some instructions on the back, but you're more than welcome to take that with you, if it's reviewed by the council. And then if you do take it with you, if you could send that back to Liz, or if you're able to sign it today, sign that.
Anybody else? If not, we're adjourned.